Hi everyone and welcome to Bonnie Astrology. Today I'm going to be discussing the astrology of and the horoscopes for November 2024. As always, if you do enjoy this video, you can give it a thumbs up to let me know that you like it and subscribe to the channel for regular astrology content from me. If you do want to follow me at any of my socials, they're listed in the description below, as well as my website where you can book astrological services from me, including 2025 year ahead readings. So let's look at the astrology of November 2024. If you want to click ahead to your zodiac sign horoscopes, feel free to do so. This is simply an energy check with November where I'm going to go through the key events happening this month astrologically and how they can play out collectively, or how we can best utilize the themes that present themselves. So for most of the month, of course, it will be Scorpio season, and that is a time associated with change, with transformation. It is the sign associated with the death and rebirth cycles, so letting go of the old to make way for the new, of transforming something in your life. And we start the month with a new moon on the 1st of November in the sign of Scorpio. And this is going to be in a trine to Saturn, which means that anything that you begin at this time may have elements of longevity to it. You may be committing to it for the long run. You may be committing to it for the long haul. In the sign of Scorpio and in a trine to Saturn in Pisces, this may be something that you're researching or something that you're working on privately, secretly, or behind the scenes. But a new moon in Scorpio is a beautiful time to begin something that you share with another person, where you join forces, where you share your resources, where you create something together, whether that is taking the next step in a relationship, joining deeper, sharing your emotions or your feelings with somebody else, whether that is moving in with someone, getting a property, getting a loan, getting a mortgage, or working towards clearing off some kind of debt. This new moon is a time to really focus on your joint relationships, your shared resources, maybe joint finances, or where you could begin something that is investigative or goes quite deep. For a lot of people, this new moon in Scorpio is going to be a time where they are really focusing on connecting to their magic and their powers of alchemy, of transforming a situation in their life that feels outdated, that feels outgrown. Because the modern and traditional rulers are both at the crisis degree of Cancer and Capricorn at this time. Mars is at 29 degrees of Cancer, Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So a lot of folk may find in their Scorpio house that it is time to let go of something to bring in something new. Letting go of old resentments, old bitterness, old hurts, old anger, resentment, and those type of emotions, letting go of them, making peace with the past in order to bring in a new beginning that feels more rooted in power, feels self-empowered, sense of self-empowerment, and feels like alchemy, where you're changing something for the better. Now, of course, that opposition between Mars and Pluto happening on the 3rd of November is incredibly intense, and it can be very frustrating. It can bring up feelings of anger, resentment, rage. This has the potential to be quite violent and destructive if one is engaging with the lower energies and the lower vibrations of these planets at this degree, when in reality 29 degrees is known as the crisis degree because it is saying it's time to make a change. Something has to change, something has to give. And Cancer and Capricorn are both signs associated with nostalgia in the past. Believe it or not, Capricorn can actually be as nostalgic as Cancerians at time, longing for the past, longing for the way things used to be, particularly the way things used to be made, the way things used to be done. Back in my day is a Capricorn expression. So you may find that you're looking backwards and thinking, okay, I've felt this way far too long. I've been angry at this person for far too long. I've been resentful of this or bitter about this for far too long. It's time to let it go. The past can't come forward with me on this new chapter. Of course, the lessons from it the trine to Saturn to the new moon is going to be one where we incorporate lessons that have been learned into new beginnings. But it may be a case with this particular opposition that you feel as though it's time to make a change, it's time to let something go, it's time to act, it's time to transform, it's time to alchemize. Turning your pain into power is a key theme of this. Even if you feel that resistance to change, the more that you resist the change, the more that you resist the opportunity to alchemize, the more angry and frustrated you will feel. With Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn, there is no doubt that something must be released for something new to enter or something new to take its place or change form. It is also worth noting that while this is the only Mars-Pluto opposition At 29 degrees of the cardinal signs Cancer and Capricorn, Mars will be opposite Pluto again in January 3rd, at the first degree of the fixed signs, Leo and Aquarius, and then it will be in opposition again in April at 3 degrees of Leo and Aquarius. So this is a bit of a foreshadowing of the new changes that must come in, particularly socially, particularly on a societal level, and how we feel our leaders are working for us or not working for us anymore, how we feel about leadership, how we feel about people in positions of power, how we feel about the idea of a president, how we feel about the idea of a monarch, how we feel about the idea of a prime minister, how we feel about those different titles and the prestige and power that comes in their decision-making processes or their use of resources against the people with Pluto in Capricorn. Those may be things that are sources of frustration, and changes may be coming in place when it comes to those different types of roles, when it comes to those different types of icons or celebrities or leadership. There may be changes in the way that we feel about that. And as Pluto shifts from Capricorn to Aquarius, the glitter is really wearing off the concept of celebrity, the concept of fame, and the concept of people having these, large degrees of power and have been getting away with so much is something that will be coming up with this opposition. This opposition can absolutely exacerbate the big reveal of corruption when it comes to government, when it comes to celebrities, when it comes to people with positions of power, particularly in the opposition to Mars in Cancer when it comes to their abuses, crimes and corruption against those most vulnerable, children, women, Mars in Cancer, and the violence and the destruction and the power against those people with Pluto in its opposition to Mars. So that can be an incredibly challenging, frustrating time, and it can absolutely drum up just anger at some of the heinous crimes that have been committed. However, it can also be a time where if we do not channel our rage into something productive, something constructive, something powerful from a sense of empowerment, it can also be something that we face serious repercussions of later in January or in April when the Mars opposition Pluto strikes again. So choose to act from a place of empowerment at this time. Do try and exercise some self-control. Do your shadow work when it comes to anger and rage. What's really making you angry? What have you not addressed? What have you not looked at with this Mars-Pluto opposition? Mars moves into Leo on the 3rd, but will go retrograde in Leo December 6th. So Mars, the whole of this month, since October 4th even, Mars has been in shadow. So we may find that where we're taking action, where we're taking steps forward, they will probably come up for review again. With Mars moving into Leo, this can be creative action. This can be where we want to express ourselves, where we want to take risks, where we want to have fun, where we want to turn our energy and our action into being creative, into expressing ourselves. But with the shadow, it can sometimes come with feelings of hurt pride and hurt ego. With Mars being in shadow and going retrograde a little bit later, it can be a wonderful time to reconnect to an old creative talent or hobby, or a love of something, reconnect to an old love of something, or maybe even an old romantic partner, with it being in the sign of Leo. Of course, this is also going to bring up some challenges when it comes to leadership, some frustrations when it comes to those in positions of power. And as I say, Mars will be forming an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto moves into Aquarius on the 19th. I'll get to that in a second. That may bring about tension, aggression, and anger when it comes to the monarchy, or it may bring about challenges to the monarchy or people in positions of leadership. It can absolutely bring up the shadow side of people in positions of power, much like Pluto being at the crisis degree of Capricorn until the 19th. Saturn goes direct on the 15th at 12 degrees of Pisces. Do check to see if you have anything at 11, 12, 13 degrees of the mutable signs. You may be feeling like you're getting a sense of direction back. Saturn having been in retrograde in Pisces over the last few months, it could have really felt like things were not moving very much. There's an astrologer that I follow on Twitter, and she also has a website. She's called Elsa. She's brilliant. And she was mentioning how, because I couldn't quite understand the feeling myself, and so many people around me were feeling it as well, and I couldn't quite understand what the astrological association was. I thought it was maybe Mars, but she was pointing out that Saturn retrograde in Pisces is where we can be putting in all these different efforts, but we feel like we can't see any reward, we feel like we can't see any growth, and that is an illusion, but it can be very disheartening to feel like we're not seeing any progress. Saturn direct in Pisces may be a time we finally start to see progress, or we feel we can recommit to what we were committed to before and what we've maybe taken a step back in, where we've taken a step back to reconsider our commitments, to reconsider how we work, how we achieve our goals, and restructuring how we do that. You may finally see some sort of progress when it comes to your Pisces house. And this may also be a time where you're noticing that people are taking more accountability, or you're taking more accountability in the Pisces part of your chart. Now, Pluto enters Aquarius on the 19th. This is huge. On the 19th, you may notice the energy shift quite significantly with Pluto entering Aquarius yet again. Obviously, Pluto has been in Aquarius, and we finally say goodbye to the Pluto in Capricorn chapter for our lifetime. And that's the end of an era. And where Pluto goes, fear flows. So you may notice with Pluto entering Capricorn that we start to hear more concerns and fears over rapid advancements in technology, AI, for example. We start to be more fearful of the future. Aquarius is a sign associated with the future. You will notice in history that where Pluto goes, fear follows, and it tends to show us what we're scared of, what we're afraid of, but also what needs to change. And when Pluto rules power, it's power of the people, how we take back power, how we work with power, how we work together or not. And Pluto moving into Aquarius can absolutely be a time where we see rapid developments in technology. We see societal changes. We see people calling for power, people taking to the streets, people coming together against corruption in leadership and structures that favor lower, that favor maybe 1% of the people. That sort of thing will come up with Pluto being in Aquarius. One other thing to mention is that Venus, the planet of love and money, enters Capricorn on the 11th, and we may see a shift in how we date and how we romance and how we connect and how we spend our money. Venus is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is currently in Pisces, and Venus being in Capricorn, there is this lovely connection where Venus loves being in Pisces, Saturn loves being in Capricorn. So for the two to be connecting with Venus and Capricorn and Saturn and Pisces and sharing their energy can actually be quite benefic when it comes to making more serious choices when it comes to love and money, or being more responsible or accountable. It may also put the spotlight on age gap relationships when it comes to Venus in Capricorn as well. The full moon on the 15th, I want to mention, is really quite a big surprise. It can absolutely bring shocks and surprises, as it is in a conjunction to Uranus in Taurus. It's happening at 24 degrees of Taurus, and this can bring unexpected surprises, shocks. It can bring electrical issues, power cuts. It can bring financial shocks, as it's happening in the sign of Taurus, and it can bring a sudden change in our values or financial currencies. It can link to government, to those in positions of power, as it is ruled by Venus in Capricorn, which is to do with those in positions of power. And this may be a time where you notice some sort of fruition or abundance when it comes to something that you put in place, or seeds that you planted about 6 months ago with the new moon in Taurus back in May. Seeds that were planted then may finally come to fruition as the moon is exalted in Taurus. One of the other key events that's coming up in November is that Mercury is entering Sagittarius on the 2nd of November and will actually be there until 2025, because on the 25th of November, Mercury goes retrograde. So do pay attention from the 2nd to the 25th, as Mercury may give you a preview of what the Mercury retrograde cycle means for you. Mercury will be in pre-shadow at that time, which may give us a clue as to what is coming up in the Sagittarius part of our chart. But Mercury going retrograde in Sagittarius can bring about miscommunication, and issues and malfunctions when it comes to traveling with Sagittarius. It can bring up issues surrounding taking trips, taking journeys, passports, visas. It can bring up miscommunications and issues because of language barriers. It can bring up issues at university. Perhaps you miss a deadline, you forget that it's a certain date that you need to submit your thesis by. It can bring up needing to retake the test, retake the exam, go back to school. It can also be a time when you're wanting to go back to these things. You're wanting to go back to university, you're wanting to go back to college, you're wanting to go back to school. You're wanting to visit that place you traveled before. There's a sense of wanting to go backwards, reflecting, reconnecting, and reevaluating. But for a lot of people, this could be quite tricky if you are traveling for the holiday season, if you're traveling home, because there can be more airport delays, flight cancellations, issues with airlines, forgetting your passport, forgetting your visa, not renewing these things in time. So make sure that you have, in the shadow period, try to make sure that you have your passport renewed, you have all the documents that you need, you know your flight times, you know the date that you need to submit your test, you know the day of your exam, the time of your exam, as these are areas where miscommunication can be an issue. Now, while Mercury is in detriment in Sagittarius, it is actually sharing mutual reception with Jupiter in Gemini, which means there can actually be some positive gifts coming out of this retrograde cycle, as we can actually reconnect to old ideas that come to fruition this time. We can talk about something that didn't go so well before, get to the root of it, iron out the details, but also see the bigger picture. There's a beautiful sharing of energy between Mercury and Jupiter. So this Mercury retrograde can actually bring a sense of fortune with it because of that shared mutual reception. It might not be as blunt as usual. It might not necessarily be so focused on the bigger picture to the detriment of the detail. There can be a beautiful blending of these planets that are not necessarily functioning so optimally in the signs that they're in. So there can be this beautiful sense of, oh, okay, I get it now. And obviously that energy is going to play out in December with Jupiter and Saturn in a square again, and Mercury joining forces with that square to form a T-square. But this can actually be a time where you review and you reflect your communication style and the way that you think as well, and actually maybe get some benefit from it, or choose to be a little bit more optimistic than you have been previously with this Mercury retrograde cycle. It can also be a time where opportunities come back around to be utilized. So as always, I'm going to pull a tarot card for November 2024 and see what the collective energies are. See what's coming up for the month of November. What's the tarot message for the month of November? The Star. Oh, that's cute. Wish fulfillment, hope, having faith, having hope. Three of Pentacles underneath. Finding hope, Pluto and Aquarius, where you work together, where you work as a team, where you work as a group, where you find your soul tribe, where you find people you truly connect with, people that share your vision. In fact, actually, I didn't mention it in the new moon in Scorpio video, but the Sabian symbol for that new moon was about fellowship. I'll see if I can find it in my notes. The new moon happening November 1st, 10 degrees of Scorpio. The new moon's at 9 degrees of Scorpio, but with Sabian symbols, we round up a degree. But the Sabian symbol was a fellowship supper. A fellowship supper reunites old comrades. So wanting to be with those who share your vision and socializing with like-minded people. It can be a month where you find your soul tribe, where you find people you really connect with, that you want the same things, you share the same vision of the future, you feel more connected to other people. You maybe feel that you can socialize with other people. People will probably get together more at work with Venus and Capricorn. Connecting with people that you work with people that you share goals and visions with will be a big part of November. So keep the faith, keep the hope with the Star card. And this can absolutely put into the spotlight very significant connections. I'm just looking at that Pluto-Mars opposition at the crisis degree. It feels like you may be surprised to see who has been working with who when it comes to people with power. You may be surprised to see how some of those connect together, some of the dots connect. But that is what I have for November. Hope you'll have a great month. Very happy birthday to all these Scorpios that are celebrating in November, as well as the Sagittarians celebrating their birthday in November as well. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Aries, welcome to November 2024. This is your horoscope for the month ahead. So let's start with the lunations, Aries, and then I'm going to move on to your ruler Mars, because there's quite a bit of activity with Mars this month. So the new moon in Scorpio, November 1st. In the first 2 weeks of November, you could possibly be initiating some sort of financial change. You could be getting a loan, a mortgage, you could be committing to paying off some sort of debt, you could be merging with another person financially. So maybe you and your partner are getting a mortgage, buying a property, or maybe even if it's nothing to do with finances, you're connecting that bit deeper with an important person in your life. Maybe the relationship is becoming more intimate, you're sharing your secrets with another person, you're connecting deeper with an existing relationship. The trine to Saturn of this new moon suggests to me that this is based on something you've been working on behind the scenes, work you've committed to privately or in secret, maybe some healing that you've been doing, or maybe work you've been doing behind the scenes. There's a full moon in your second house in the 15th. This is conjunct Uranus, which can bring some financial surprises. It brings the potential for some financial instability this month, whether that be a surprise expense, whether that be hopefully coming into some money surprisingly in a positive way. It's a second house, so it can be a sudden financial increase or a sudden financial decrease. I do feel because it's ruled by Venus in Capricorn, your 10th house. Venus enters your 10th house on November 11th. I do feel this financial change could be to do with positive experiences in your career. So maybe you're getting a promotion that brings a pay rise. Maybe you have caught the attention of someone in a position of power who wants to give you increase your income or give you a promotion, or perhaps you being more popular in the workplace is increasing your chances of financial increase or some kind of material gain, like a gift even. You could get an unexpected gift around the time of this full moon. Because it's ruled by Venus in your 10th house, this could be from a father figure, an authority figure, a boss, or a workplace as well. So, Mars, your ruling planet. Mars has been in Cancer, and it has been quite challenging for you because Mars has fallen in Cancer. Perhaps you've had to put a lot of energy and activity into your family, into property matters, maybe renovations, maybe you have been doing up a property, redecorating, or maybe there's been something challenging happening with home and family and you've had to put your attention and energy there. You may feel like all your energy has gone into the home or family matters, while at the same time, since September, you feel a call to make some sort of career change. You feel a call to change up the way that you're working, or your goals for the future, or your professional life. Particularly if you're in a position of authority, Aries, you might be thinking, do I want to be in this position anymore? Do I want it to be the way that it is? You're looking for authenticity, so that essentially means where you're at right now, how your career or your goals may be completely unrelated to career, how they're lining up with who you are at the moment, Aries. And I feel with this opposition on the 3rd of November between Mars and Pluto at the crisis degree of your 4th house, 10th house axis, you're really feeling like you need to make changes in terms of your work-life balance, in terms of your private and professional life. And this could be quite challenging. You could feel you're coming under resistance or frustration, or people are trying to one-up you maybe in your family or one-up you in your career, or you feel that maybe things are not balanced enough in terms of working with another person. And you're wanting to make a change to something needs to change in terms of your approach to your family life and career and the balance between the two. Mars does move into Leo, and you'll feel a lot better about this, Aries. Now, I want to, preface this with the fact that Mars is still in shadow. So your energy is not its highest. Doesn't mean you've none, but it won't be as high as it usually is. But Mars in Leo is very creatively inspired. You might feel like you could take more risks. You might feel like you are more adventurous. You're more creative. You're more passionate. You may be more focused on dating or your romantic life. You may be more focused on creating something, more focused on the arts, theatre, performances, that type of thing. You might also be more focused on your children, and you want to spend a lot of your energy and time there. It's worth noting Mars will retrograde in December, so this is a time when you might be reflecting on how you approach these different topics that I've just mentioned. You might be initiating something this month in those areas, but you may also find next month you start to reflect and say, okay, well, where could I do this a bit differently? Or, maybe just checking in with your motivations when it comes to these different topics. Saturn is going to go direct in Pisces in the 15th, and this is where you're going to start to finally see some progress when it comes to whatever it is you've been working on behind the scenes. I guarantee you've been putting in a lot of effort, and you don't feel like you're being appreciated for it because maybe people don't see it, or you feel it's not paying off. Whether that's healing that you're doing, a project that you're working on, or just not being seen for your professional accomplishments at the moment, maybe you're less visible. Things will start to progress. The work that you've been doing behind the scenes with Saturn direct will begin to pay off, and it may be easier to see that progress after a period of restructuring how you work behind the scenes, or how you heal and how you let go and how you take care of yourself. Mercury is going to be in Sagittarius from November 2nd right up until January 2025. And I know you're probably thinking that seems like an awfully long time for a Mercury transit. Reason being, Mercury goes retrograde on the 25th. It will be retrograde until the 15th of December. From the 25th of November to the 15th of December, we're in a tricky territory when it comes to traveling. This is a time where you might get dates and times wrong, transportation delays, visa mix-up, passport mix-ups. So these are places where you should essentially be exercising extra caution. Double check the time, double check the date. Bring a book in case you get delayed. Bring a charger in case you get delayed if you're taking a trip. If you have exams to sit, if you have university lectures to attend, college to attend, double check everything in that time period, because there can be mix-ups, just so that you know. But between November 2nd and until January of next year, there's more likelihood of you traveling, studying, or thinking a lot about your belief systems. And maybe, these are things that are going to be on your mind. So have you taken a trip lately? Do you want to take a trip? Do you want to go back to school? Do you want to learn about something new? Are you curious about a topic? Were you curious about a topic before? You might pick it up during this time. It can, of course, bring the usual delays and miscommunication. There could be language barriers with someone in your life, Aries, miscommunication with people who come from different countries or that you study with or studied with. You may also run into old college friends at this time as well. Pluto gets back into Aquarius, and there Pluto will stay for 20 odd years. The 19th of November, Pluto enters Aquarius, which is your 11th house. So this is part of a very long cycle. So you may not necessarily notice anything specific that day for you personally, but if you do pay attention, there may be some subtle clues when it comes to your friendships, when it comes to your social communities, the charities and causes that you care deeply about, Aries. There may be some signs of what you're going to experience during this 20-year transit. You may also be suddenly feeling a little bit more fearful about the future, but you can also perhaps, on the flip side, depending on how you work with this energy, feel more empowered to change what the future is for you. And of course, as I mentioned, Venus is in Capricorn from the 11th of November, which is going to be very positive when it comes to your career. You'll be better received, you'll have more chance for gifts, abundance, and positive events in the workplace. So I have for you, Aries, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Taurus, welcome to November 2024. Hope you're doing really well. So Taurus, let's start with the lunations. New moon in your 7th house, November 1st. The first half of November, you could potentially be beginning a new relationship. It can be a relationship of any kind, could be romantic, could be business, could be a very close friendship. But there may be a new relationship on the cards for many of you, or you may decide this is a time you want to initiate a new beginning in finding or sourcing a new relationship in your life. It is making a trine to Saturn, retrograde in your 11th house of friendships. This could be a chance to reset a friendship in your life. This could be a time where you reconnect with old friends and it maybe maybe you reconnect with an old friend and it turns into a relationship. Or it could just be that perhaps you are beginning a relationship and you're wanting to make sure you're on the same page when it comes to goals for the future right off the bat. The full moon in Taurus, your sign, on the 15th is where you may surprise people. You may do something unexpected, shocking, or surprising, or your feelings may surprise you. You may actually surprise yourself. Full moons in your first house can be quite emotional. With Uranus, it adds a sense of instability and unpredictability. It's ruled by Venus in your 9th house, so perhaps you're making a shock move, relocation, trip, travel, a surprise trip perhaps is something that you're doing, or maybe you are deciding you want to go back to school, study something new, or you're wanting to embark on an adventure, or you're changing your relationship to your faith. Taurus is another way that this one might be manifesting for you, but it does feel like it's a bit of a wild card. It's quite unexpected, though it seems to be coming from the approach that you want to travel or explore a bit. Mercury enters your 8th house in the 2nd and will be there until January because it goes retrograde on the 25th. So This is a really good time to review your financial arrangements. So if you're paying a mortgage, or you have a loan, or you have debt, or you're paying taxes, this is a really good time to double check everything. Look over your documents, check your payments, check your rates, have a little bit of a financial investigation and see, what you're paying back, maybe a student loan, maybe check your credit score. This is a good time to do some financial investigation and get very clear on what's going on for you financially. It may also be a time when you're more interested in talking about the challenging stuff, the taboo things that are hard to discuss, like death or joint finances, or there could be some harder conversations at this time period as well. You're maybe looking at inheritance issues, or you're maybe thinking about having more deep conversations in your relationships. You might not necessarily be so interested in having the type of conversations that are surface level. So with this retrograde, you may have to go over some stuff when it comes to your financial relationship to another person, or a government, or an organizational body, or something like that. It does share mutual reception with Jupiter in your second house, so I feel like any review that you do has a chance to improve your financial situation generally, Taurus. Now, the Mars-Pluto opposition in November 3rd, which is a little bit tricky, I think for you, this is happening at the crisis degree for everybody. I think for you, it's very mental, and it's very, very focused on your perspectives. So Mars, crisis degree of your third house, you could get into debates with other people, hard conversations, harsh conversations. There could be some clashing when it comes to your ideas, also when it comes to your beliefs and when it comes to your perspectives. This may be a time when conversations can get very heated and they can be quite challenging. So do watch out for that. You could also find yourself in challenging conversations with neighbors, siblings, social media, even. This is a very touchy energy, so you could find yourself debating with someone online at this time, Taurus. Mars does move into Leo in the same day. So Mars in Leo for you is going to put a lot of your attention, focus, and energy onto your home and living situation. This could be a redecorating endeavor. This could be about spending more time at home, taking action on something towards the house. That could be redecorating, that could be organizing, decluttering. It could also be that there may be some tension with family members, and this could be old tension because Mars is going to go retrograde in December. There could be some conflict with family members, or you may find yourself having to put a lot of attention, focus, and energy into your living situation or the people that you live with, Taurus. Saturn is going direct in Pisces on the 15th, and this is going to be very good for your friendships. Saturn retrograde in your friendship sector may have tested the foundations of existing friendships, and it may have taught you a lot about your friendships and your relationships to groups of people, the spaces that you're a part of. And now that Saturn is direct, it's easier for you to commit or see progress when it comes to friendships, and it can be easier to see if friendships are there for a season or a reason. It can be a great time to learn from other people, to connect deeper to your friendships, to commit to friendships, or commit to groups, or commit to causes. The 11th house is to do with philanthropy, so it could be to do with a cause that's very dear to your heart, and you may finally see some progress there. It may also be in terms of your goals and wishes for the future, your aspirations. If you felt a little bit deflated and like things were not changing, this may be where you start to see some progress when it comes to an existing aspiration of yours, Taurus. And speaking of which, Pluto re-enters your 10th house, and there Pluto will remain for 20 odd years. So while this day may not necessarily be totally significant when it comes to your career, it could be. And if it's not totally significant, it can be that it gives you some clue as to what this longer transit is going to be for you when it comes to career. So essentially, it's about aligning you with a career path that you feel is part of your soul's calling. It feels authentic to you. It can be that perhaps you're looking to initiate a new path for yourself, join a new industry, perhaps try a new endeavor career-wise. You may also be kind of fearful about career matters, public image, and your goals, because Pluto, when it enters or changes signs, you can feel a sense of fear and unease. But this is because you may be sensing that change is afoot, even if it is not immediate. And as I say, your ruler Venus is in Capricorn from the 11th in your 9th house. So you may be finding more benefit from traveling, connecting with people in different countries. You may find that you're really in love with philosophy, in love with learning, in love with taking adventures and taking trips, Taurus. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Gemini, welcome to November 2024. This is your horoscope. So Gemini, we have a new moon happening November 1st in your 6th house. And so in the first half of November, it feels that a lot of you are probably going to be initiating something new when it comes to your health and your well-being. You could be consulting an expert to improve your health, maybe seeing a doctor, maybe you could be hiring a personal trainer, someone who's very solid in their field is likely who you're going to be working with when it comes to improving your health or your diet or your well-being, whatever the case may be. Gemini, there is a priority in November when it comes to your health and your well-being. So again, there seems to be some sort of new beginning, an initiation, seeing a doctor, seeing a professional, or beginning a new diet, a new exercise regimen, and just making your health and your well-being a priority. And that does include your mental health, because in the full moon, on November 15th, we have a full moon in Taurus in your 12th house conjunct Uranus. So you might be liberating yourself from some sort of issue when it comes to your mental health or even your physical health or your well-being. It feels like you might have a surprise when it comes to your health at this time. There could be something that is surprising to you that you learn about your health and your well-being. It could be something you didn't see coming with this being in the 12th house. There could be a shocking ending in your life as well of some kind. Something might need to be released, something might need to be let go of. It feels, because it's ruled by Venus in your 8th house, that whatever's going on around the time of this full moon, it feels like you might be benefiting from this psychologically. So perhaps you are having some sort of breakthrough in therapy, or a spiritual breakthrough or spiritual awakening, and this is helping you when it comes to your psychological baggage or patterns or past trauma and experiences. Gemini, for a lot of you, this could play out very psychologically. For others of you, it could be that perhaps something is being released, in which case it feels a little bit like your miss might be your mercy. You might be benefiting from this in the long run, particularly financially, or particularly when it comes to benefiting from somebody else or something else. And I do think most likely through a financial standpoint, with Venus being in the 8th house. It does feel with this full moon in Taurus, it is for all of us expecting unexpected. For you, it could be a very interesting surprise, because it could come out of nowhere, being the 12th house. But you may also have some very interesting dreams around the time of this full moon as well. They could maybe help you see something from a different perspective and perhaps liberate you from something that has been troubling you for quite some time. So Mercury is going to be in your 7th house from the 2nd of November right up until January 2025. It's an extended stay for Mercury because there's a retrograde occurring on the 25th. So this is going to put a lot of your attention towards your partnerships, your conversations with your partner. You may have miscommunication with a partner. You may have to go over old arguments or old fights, or you may have to go over old disagreements with a partner, or go over old ground with plans with a partner, a key relationship in your life. If you don't have a partner, it can be any kind of relationship. It could be business perhaps. But it seems that for a lot of you, you're really going to be putting your focus onto your relationships and connecting with others. And this increased focus could be part of the reason it's more likely to be an area where miscommunication can occur. But we can always learn from that miscommunication and look at our own communication styles with other people. This may be a time for misunderstandings though, although it can also be a time where some of you hear from past partners, people you used to date, people you used to go out with. You might want to check in, or you might want to reconnect with your partner and have more conversations with them if things have been busy. Now, the Mars-Pluto opposition, Gemini, that is happening for you on the 3rd of November, it's happening on your financial axis. So this is where you might notice some power struggles or challenge or frustration. With Pluto being at the crisis degree in your 8th house, if you have a shared financial relationship, you might learn something you didn't know. It can also be that perhaps there's changes coming to you when it comes to tax, when it comes to insurance, when it comes to debt, when it comes to loans. There could be some frustration there. With Mars being in the second, you're trying to take action financially, but it feels as if something is blocking you or frustrating you or irritating you, quite simply, with this opposition. Mars moves into Leo on the 3rd, and this is going to occupy your 3rd house. Mars is going to be in shadow this entire time because Mars goes retrograde in December. So Mars being in your 3rd house, you may be more abrupt, you might be more verbally direct, maybe a bit more aggressive, Gemini. You say what you mean. You might be finding that you possibly have more angry thoughts. If you get into a confrontation with someone, it's more likely to be a sibling or a neighbor or someone on social media. But Mars being in the 3rd house can really ramp up your energy to get involved in your local community or get involved in your neighborhood. These may be places where you're wanting to put your energy, but you could get into a conflict with a neighbor, or you could get into a conflict with a sibling, with Mars being in Leo. But I also think you could really put a lot of action and intention into a writing project, a social media project, a blog, for example. And speaking very directly during this particular transit, Saturn is going to go direct in Pisces on the 15th in your 10th house. And this is where you may notice that you're finally seeing some progress when it comes to your career. If things have felt a little bit backwards, a bit slow, a bit uncertain, you might find around the 15th that you start to see progress for the hard work you've been doing career-wise. You might see some sort of karmic reward, some sort of benefit awareness where you can commit more to your career. And if it's not career, it can be a goal of yours. You're more committed to your goals. You see progress that little bit more where you've been doubting it. And you may have reconsidered and restructured what's going on for you career-wise over the last few months. And now you feel more confident taking some steps towards your goals. Pluto enters Aquarius on the 19th, Gemini. And this is where for you, you're going to see a lot of focus on changing your perspectives of the world, your view of the world, your relationship to travel, your relationship to foreign lands, your education. These might be areas where you're considering making a substantial or significant change. With Pluto going into that sector for you. This is a 20-odd year transit, so it's not necessarily going to be something that you noticed November 19th, but you may get some clues as to what it's going to be for you with Pluto going into the 9th house. Venus is in Capricorn, your 8th house from the 11th, so this is really positive when it comes to joint financial arrangements, insurance, loans, debts, mortgages, and also connecting more intimately to a partnership in your life. But it does feel with Venus being there that this is an area where you'll notice some blessings, some gift, and some joy. That's what I have for you, Gemini, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Cancer, welcome to November 2024. So Cancer, Mars is going to be leaving your sign this month. Now don't get too comfortable with that because Mars will retrograde back into your sign in January, having gone retrograde in Leo in December. So Mars moves into your 2nd house on the 3rd of November after getting into a tense opposition with Pluto in your opposite sign. Around the 3rd of November, you may notice that you are coming into some sort of conflict or disagreement with someone in your personal life, someone that you have a close relationship with. It could be professional, it could be romantic, marital, it could be friendship, but you may feel that there is a push and pull, a bit of a power struggle between you and someone else, and you may feel a little bit oppressed by them or their attitudes. And it can be quite hard to find balance between what you need, particularly for your own health, and what they need, possibly coming from their fear or want to control. So there can be a little bit of a power struggle and a push-pull dynamic. You could be dealing with a partner who's maybe going through quite a lot. You could be dealing with a partner who's experiencing fear, phobias, and you might be finding yourself feeling with Mars in your sign in shadow. And in the fall, you might be finding that you're a little bit more tired, irritable, and angry than usual with this opposition, and it can result in some sort of power struggle or opposition from another person. Now, when Mars enters your 2nd house on the 3rd, and will go retrograde in December, I want to say be very mindful of what you're spending your money on or any financial initiations that you're taking. Just because Mars is going to retrograde back over these degrees, essentially, which means you're going to start to review your spending. You're going to start to review what you are purchasing, particularly if it comes through your career. You know, if you're buying something for work or investing in work, you might find that you could have buyer's remorse, or you might have to, you might order the wrong thing. With retrogrades, essentially, we reflect and review what it is that we have done in the shadow period. So just be mindful of what you're purchasing and what you're spending your money on, especially if you're doing it quickly with Mars. Mercury enters Sagittarius on the 2nd, and for you, this is your 6th house. So Mercury is going to be here until January because of a retrograde cycle, which starts on the 25th of November and ends on the 15th of December. In those dates, in between those dates, you might find that there's a lot of miscommunication when it comes to your workplace, when it comes to your job. You could be going back and forth with a health issue. So say, for example, you are having some tests done. There can be a bit of a mix-up. There can be a bit of delay. There can be a bit of back and forth. If you have appointments in a gym or in anything health related, there can be miscommunication in those areas. And in the workplace with co-workers, employees, colleagues, that type of thing. But this is likely to be a very busy area nonetheless, because Mercury in this sector tends to bring a lot of conversations, a lot of appointments, a lot of details, and with Mercury going retrograde, a lot of room for miscommunication and communication issues. But it can be a time as well in the workplace where work that you've done previously comes back up for review. Maybe that is an audit, maybe that is you catch a mistake that was made. Whatever the case may be, Cancer, Mercury retrograde tends to bring the normal miscommunications review and a few blunders here and there. For you, it is happening in the workplace, but also pertaining to health. The new moon in Scorpio that begins November 1st means that in the first 2 weeks of November, there may be a new beginning coming up with a child in your life. Maybe one of your children has a new phase of their life that is happening that you are involved with. Maybe it is that you are finding out that you're expecting a baby. Maybe you're having a baby. This can be about pregnancies in the 5th house, but it can also be for some of you, if you are single, this can be the beginning of a new romantic relationship. With Saturn being in Pisces in a trine to this new moon, romance could be found traveling. It could be with someone from a different country, someone you meet at university, college, through a place of learning, or someone who's quite spiritual in nature. It may also be that you're beginning a new creative hobby or project, and this may be something that encourages you to study different philosophical, religious, or spiritual perspectives. You could have a new passion that is going to require a lot of learning and a lot of study. And it's going to help you acquire a lot of knowledge, Cancer. Now, the full moon in Taurus on the 15th of November. For you, this is happening in your 11th house, and it is conjunct Uranus. So emotions can be running high when it comes to friendships, when it comes to social connections, social groups. It can also be to do with the causes that you are passionate about. The conjunction to Uranus means that there can be sudden changes when it comes to these areas. You can unexpectedly end a friendship. You can unexpectedly change a friendship. Because Venus is placed at the time of this full moon and rules this new moon in your sector of partnership, for some Cancerians it can be a friends to lover storyline. For some Cancerians it can also be a lover to friend storyline. But I think for a lot of you there could be a surprise vision for the future, or you could radically change your vision for the future within a relationship or when it comes to some sort of partnership in your life. But with this being in the 11th house, it does center around themes of friendship. It can be a great time to get out and socialize. It can be socializing with unusual people that are a little bit different to what you usually connect with, people that are a little bit more quirky, a little bit more free, a little bit more focused on freedom and liberation in some way. But I think with this being in the 11th house, maybe you're changing your vision of the future to be quite different to what it is that you've anticipated, Cancer. And that may be because of a partnership or a relationship in your life. Venus does enter your partnership sector on the 11th, which is a beautiful time for relationships. It's a great time if you're single to find a partner. It's a great time to spend time with your partner. Where Venus goes, love follows. So you may be finding that you and your partner are having a better time together, getting on better, especially if there were challenges around the Mars-Pluto opposition. But I think with this, it can just be a sense of connecting with key relationships in a way that is harmonious and positive for you. Interestingly enough, with Venus being in Capricorn, it will be the first time that Venus has been in your partnership sector in a very long time without a connection to Pluto. So you may be finding that things just feel a little bit lighter than usual when it comes to relationships. Saturn goes direct in your 9th house on the 15th, and you can finally see some progress when it comes to travel plans, when it comes to study, higher learning, and when it comes to spirituality. If you feel like these have been topics that have been quite slow, quite sluggish, quite jarring, and you've not noticed much movement, you may find that you're able to commit better to these things once Saturn goes direct. So whether you're studying at university, whether you're wanting to travel more, or you're wanting to get a visa or a passport or something pertaining to foreign travel, you may find that it is easier to obtain that kind of commitment or see progress. Pluto enters Aquarius in the 19th, leaving your partnership sector for the rest of your life. So depending on how long you live, we don't know what's going to happen, but likely it's not going to be there for the rest of your life. So Pluto entering Aquarius in your 8th house on the 19th, Cancer, this can be a time where you may notice some fears come up, you may notice some shadow work. This is going to be a long transit. This is going to be 20 odd years, so you don't necessarily have to notice the changes instantaneously. But with Pluto entering Aquarius, you may find that you're a bit more fearful of change, transition, transformation, death even. You may be thinking more about your joint financial relationships, mortgages. You may be thinking more about inheritance. Maybe for some of you, your mind is shifting to making a will or paying off debt or something of that nature. You're feeling an urge to transform joint financial relationships, Cancer, or your taxes and things like that. So that is what I have for you, Cancer. I hope you have a great month, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Leo, welcome to November. Leo, Mars is entering your sign this month, just to jump straight in because that's what Mars likes. Mars is entering your sign on the 3rd after getting into a very intense opposition to Pluto. Mars in the 12th opposing Pluto in the 6th. Some of you may have been experiencing secrets coming out, hidden information coming out. Some of you may have been experiencing significant health and physical changes, or you've had to make some radical transformations when it comes to your physical health and your well-being to transform the way that you look after yourself, care for yourself, or take care of your health. Some of you could have been experiencing a health crisis as well with Mars in Cancer and Pluto in the 6th house in opposition, which has maybe inspired you to make further changes to your health and change the way you operate in your routines. It may have been something that changed your day-to-day activities, or you changed your day-to-day activities to better accommodate a more healthy lifestyle for you, Leo. Mars going into your sign for sure can give you a burst of energy on the 3rd. Mars in your sign, though, is going to be in shadow, so it is not the typical burst of energy you get with Mars every 2 years. In fact, you may be finding that while you feel the desire to act a little bit more, to push that little bit harder, there can be moments where you notice that you just do not feel completely aligned with what you're doing or completely up to speed with what you're doing, as Mars will go retrograde in December. That's okay to go a little bit slower because you're going to have to review these steps in December. So if you push, you may find yourself more likely to get a cold, get unwell, have sleep disturbances, not feel so great, be irritable, be angry, etc. Your temper may be a little bit higher with Mars in your sign in Leo, but it can also give you a little bit of a boost. I would expect it after Mars being fallen in Cancer for the last month or so. So essentially this is going to give you a little bit of a boost, and it is going to be part of a wider Mars retrograde story, which I will go into in the Mars retrograde video. Now, this month as well, we have a new moon in your 4th house of Scorpio. And this can bring a new beginning when it comes to home life, family life. This is happening November 1st. So in the first half of November, you may be deciding you want to move, you want to change the home. You could be moving, or you could be deciding you're going to look at new properties, or you're looking to renovate your home or change your home, make some adjustments to your home. And this may be because you are accommodating your health or physical changes, or for example, some of you may be wanting to create a home gym. Some of you may be wanting to create, say with Mars in the 12th house, that was a pregnancy. Maybe for some of you, you're wanting to build a baby room or something of that nature. You're making home changes to accommodate the transformation of your life. Saturn is in your 8th house in a trine to this new moon. For a lot of you, that could be a mortgage, that could be a loan, that could be committing to property in a financial sense with the 8th house being involved, but it can simply also represent the energy of transformation for you, Leo. There can be a new beginning in your family as well, perhaps a reset with a relationship where there has been some sort of tension with this particular new moon. Now, the full moon is happening in your 10th house, and this is on the 15th of November. The second half of the month, Leo, brings some sort of career change for you. This full moon is conjunct Uranus, so there may be some surprises when it comes to your career. There may be some surprises when it comes to your public life, your public image. Maybe a boss is changing for you at this point. Maybe your career trajectory is changing. Maybe something is coming to a close, something is coming to fruition. But it feels kind of unexpected. It feels kind of surprising. Perhaps you are leaving your job and it's surprising others. Perhaps your boss is leaving your job and it's surprising others. Or perhaps there is a surprise promotion. Perhaps there is a surprise, there's a surprise in the workplace, but it can also be something that's really quite liberating and quite freeing and potentially gives you a little bit more independence or a little bit more wiggle room than you've had. Because this is ruled by Venus in Capricorn in your 6th house, it feels like it is positive when it comes to who you're working with, co-workers, colleagues, etc. And it's positive in your day-to-day routine. Venus being in your 6th house from the 11th can represent positive interactions with co-workers, colleagues, employees, getting on better with people in the workplace, socializing in the workplace, opportunities to socialize in the workplace. And also, it's a nice time to invest in gym wear, active wear, or to really find joy and pleasure in taking care of your health and your well-being. With Venus being there, it does tend to bring a bit of a boost when it comes to health matters. But at this full moon does seem to be amplifying the winds of change in your career sector. And it could be surprising for a lot of people. Just to note, it is an exalted moon because it's a moon in Taurus full moon. So there seems to be a sense of positivity to this, but it does seem to be surprising. Mercury is going to be in Sagittarius from the 2nd of November right up until January, because the retrograde cycle of Mercury is from November 25th until the 15th of December. So Mercury in your 5th house. This can be a time, because of the retrograde, where you hear from people you used to date. You maybe give somebody a second chance, they give you a second chance. It can be a time when you pick up a creative hobby that you used to do. You get more involved in something creative that used to be a talent of yours, used to be a hobby of yours. It can be a time where there's also miscommunication in your love life. It can be a time when there's also miscommunication with your children, because the 5th house also rules children. So there can be a bit of back and forth regarding a child in your life. There can be a bit of back and forth regarding the details surrounding a child in your life. Say, for example, you're trying to change where they go to school. There can be a bit of back and forth and a bit of a delay when it comes to matters surrounding your children. This does share a mutual reception with Jupiter in the 11th house though, so I feel that the changes or delays or frustrations that happen now could be pretty positive for the future. So it could be, one of those situations where you get a bit of a redirection and it works out better in the long run for you. But as usual, Mercury in the 5th, travel delays, communication issues, missing the details, communication blunders, that type of thing. Leo. Saturn is going direct in your 8th house on the 15th, and this is where you're going to start to see progress when it comes to joint financial matters such as mortgages, loans, paying off debt. It'll be easier for you to commit to these areas because there may have been some restructuring, some reconsideration when it comes to joint financial arrangements, so taxes, for example. Saturn direct means it is easier for you to pay off debt, pay off money that you owe. It may be easier for you to obtain that mortgage, obtain that loan that you need to build a more solid future for yourself, Leo. Pluto enters your 7th house of relationships on the 19th, and you're going to want to get comfortable with this because it's going to be 20 odd years of this transit. Will you necessarily notice anything happen on the 19th? Depends on your chart. If you have placements at 0 to 1 degrees of the fixed signs, you may notice this more than others. But essentially, Pluto in your 7th house, it's going to completely change and transform your relationship sector. It's going to change your marriage, it's going to change your relationship, it's going to change your relationship status. Now, that can be in many different ways. That does not have to be that worst case scenario. There's lots of things that can change the dynamics of a relationship that are not necessarily inherently negative. But be mindful, if you pick partners during this time, you may want to make sure that you are taking care of your own self when it comes to your relationship style. So the more that you know yourself on a psychological level, your own patterns when it comes to relationships, the stronger you will be in terms of picking partners. If you don't, you will learn through picking partners. With Pluto, Pluto tends to add a sense of psychological analysis wherever it goes. So you might learn a lot about yourself psychologically. You might learn a lot about your soul as well when it comes to partnerships, learning through relationships and experiencing great change. Now, it can, as it changes signs, bring a bit of fear and a bit of nervousness when it comes to your partnerships. And that is what I have for you, Leo. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Virgo, welcome to November 2024. Hope you're all doing really well. So Virgo, we have a new moon in Scorpio on the 1st of November. And so in the first half of November, maybe for some of you, as this is falling in your 3rd house, you're getting a new car, you're getting a new vehicle. Perhaps you are beginning a new commute in your life. Your commute is changing, how you get around is changing. There could be a new beginning in your community, your local community. So that could be an event, that could be a new neighbor. It could be a reset with a sibling in your life, a relationship with a sibling or a neighbor, maybe having a fresh start around the time of this new moon. With the trine to Saturn in your relationship sector and Saturn going direct on the 15th in your relationship sector, it will be easier in November going forward to commit to a partner, to commit to a relationship, whether that be romantic, business, a best friend, a close one-on-one personal relationship. You may have done some restructuring or review when it comes to how you commit to different relationships in your life, existing ones or potential ones. And you may find it is easier to see progress or commit to making plans with a partner as well, Virgo. So with this new moon, you may be perhaps getting a new car with a partner. You may be you may be taking a trip with a partner. It could be a local trip, one that's not too far away with a 3rd house. Or it could be that perhaps you are beginning a new way of communicating with a partnership in your life, Virgo. There's a full moon in Taurus in the 15th. And for you, this is happening in your 9th house. So this could be a time where you are unexpectedly taking a trip. There's a travel opportunity. This could be one that comes out of the blue. It could be a surprise to you. For some of you, you could have a bit of a spiritual awakening, a spiritual epiphany, Virgo. It's ruled by Venus in your 5th house. So you may find that if you're taking an unexpected trip, it could be for romance, it could be for creativity, it could be for pleasure. It feels as though around this time you're maybe having some sort of spiritual epiphany, or there could be a surprising change when it comes to your studies. If you're in university, if you're in college, there could be surprising news, a surprising event. There could also be a liberation. So maybe you're putting your thesis through for review, you finally finished your coursework, whatever the case may be, and you're feeling liberated from that. You're finishing exams or something of that nature. There could absolutely be a surprise in these areas too, and there could be a surprise trip for some Virgos as well, with this being in the 9th house. Mars is going to be in an opposition to Pluto November 3rd before Mars moves into Leo. So Mars in your 11th house opposing Pluto in your 5th. These are areas that are up for big change this month. These might be areas where you need to address some suppressed anger, rage, or frustration. So maybe for some of you, you have been quite angry, Virgo, at a friend, at a group. There could be a power struggle with a friend, with a team. You could be angry at a team of people, a group of people, a key friendship in your life, or you could be really putting your energy into your cause. With the 11th house, with Pluto being in your 5th house at the crisis degree, there can be significant changes coming up, Virgo, when it comes to children, when it comes to your creativity, what you put your creative energy into, what you've been working on creatively, or even your love life. There could be some sort of significant change happening in any of these areas. You feel an urgency to change, and you might be feeling an urgency to take action on the future as well, Virgo. There might be this sort of crisis energy building within you where you feel really angry about the future and you feel you need to make a change in order to have a better future. Essentially, you're going to want to take back your control on what you're contributing to your own vision of the future. When Mars enters your 12th house in the 3rd, bear in mind you might be a little bit more tired than usual. You might find that if you have, well, Mars is going to go retrograde in December, and Mars is in shadow in your 12th house. This can be a time when you maybe notice you're not feeling so well. Your health isn't as great as it usually is. You can be feeling kind of tired. You might notice with Mars being in the 12th house that you have possibly got some hidden enemies that you didn't know about. These can be vices of your own, but they can be people in your camp that you didn't expect to be to take on the role of aggressor. Essentially, there can be an awareness of who is actually working against you at this time, or you could feel a little bit betrayed by someone with Mars being in your 12th house, and this might be something that you have to reconsider. You may also be taking a bit of a review on the things that you do pertaining to your spiritual and your mental health. You may feel that it is time to take action on something when it comes to your mental health and your spiritual well-being, when it comes to looking after your soul as well. Pluto enters Aquarius on the 19th. This is entering your health sector. So there is more emphasis on your health. This is part of a wider story. You may be feeling called to transform your health, to transform what you eat, how you exercise, how you take care of yourself in your day-to-day. This may be because of a health crisis that you've experienced, or it may just simply be because you're wanting to take better care of your mental health. So it feels as though you might be a little bit fearful when it comes to health. You might be noticing concerns, phobias when it comes to your well-being with Pluto, because where Pluto goes, fear follows. This can also be fear when it comes to the workplace. Sometimes with Pluto going into the 6th house, you can find yourself suddenly having power. Maybe you've management over co-workers, over colleagues, and this can be an area where you're maybe noticing some power struggles going on. It can also be that you feel a bit fearful about your job, or you feel you need to make a change when it comes to your job and your work, and that fear is sort of hanging over your head. If I don't make a change, what's it going to be? So you may be calling yourself to transform your work situation as well, Virgo. With Venus being in your 5th house from the 11th, it's a wonderful month for dating, romance, love. With Venus being in your 5th house and Saturn being in your 7th, it's a really nice time to, especially because they have this beautiful reception with each other, it is a lovely month to date if you're looking for somebody solid, particularly after the 15th when Saturn is direct. It is a lovely month to date if you're looking for something long-term, if you're looking for something committed. In existing relationships, it might be a nice time, Virgo, to reconnect to dating your partner, to having date nights and things like that. Can be a beautiful energy for love all round. That is what I have for you, Virgo, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Libra, welcome to November 2024. This is your horoscope for the month ahead. Libra, this month we have a new moon in Scorpio on November 1st, which is a new beginning or a reset when it comes to your financial situation. This may be a new moon where you are starting to set some financial intentions. Perhaps you're wanting to refresh your financial situation. With the trine from Saturn, perhaps you're more committed to building wealth for yourself, or you're more committed to obtaining or receiving a sustainable income for yourself. So your mind is on your money with this new moon, and that can be something as small as opening up a new bank account, opening up a new savings account. It can be that you are perhaps starting a new job with Saturn in the 6th that is going to bring you new money, or you are focusing your attention and your efforts on starting a professional path that aligns more with your values. So that can also be something that comes up with new moon in the second house, but it can also be a time where you're wanting to really start incorporating more of your talents and your skills into your workplace as well. This new moon is, while positive in its trine to Saturn, it is tricky because it is ruled by a Mars-Pluto opposition, which for you is happening very much on the public and private axis of your chart. Pluto is in the private part of your chart at the crisis degree, Mars in the public part of your chart at the crisis degree also. So essentially, in the early part of November, you may be wrapping up or making some sort of changes when it comes to the balance between your home life and your work life. So your family and your work, your private and your public life. You may feel there's an urgency to make some sort of change there. Something needs to change. Maybe something has been in a state of crisis, Libra. Maybe you have been having some challenges either at home or at work, and this opposition is saying that some sort of change needs to be made, or some sort of change is happening. It can be quite frustrating, and it can be a time when suppressed emotions come to the surface in order to be addressed. Now, the full moon, by contrast, is conjunct Uranus in your 8th house, and this can bring to light financial affairs surrounding other people. So this could be where your partner's income is changing. You may learn something about your partner's income that you didn't know if you have one. This can be a time when the focus goes on loans, mortgages, joint financial assets, inheritances, Libra. These can be the different themes that come up around this full moon. There can be surprises, there can be a sense of expect the unexpected, or there can be some sort of liberation at this time. Now, it is ruled by Venus, and Venus is in Capricorn, your 4th house. So I think for a lot of you, it could be a loan, a mortgage, remortgaging the home, or making some sort of financial venture when it comes to property, or finding out you've suddenly been approved for a mortgage, or having your house reevaluated and you realize it is different to what you expected. It does seem for a lot of you that it centers around property, but for some of you from a psychological perspective, a full moon in the 8th conjunct Uranus can be a liberation from some sort of emotional baggage that you've been working through, and Venus in the 4th house can suggest that maybe this is allowing you to feel a bit more love, compassion for your past, with Venus being there. So it may be for some of you very much financial, and for others of you it could actually be some sort of psychological breakthrough for a few of you. Now we're looking at Mercury in Sagittarius. Mercury enters Sagittarius on the 2nd, and for you this is your 3rd house of communication. Mercury is going to be there till January. The retrograde cycle mark these dates, the 25th to the 15th of December, 25th November to the 15th of December. Miscommunication is very likely for you at this time, Libra. You may say something and regret it later. You may give the wrong information. You may receive the wrong information. Your phone might play up. Between the 25th of November and the 15th of December, it's not a great time to buy a new car, a new phone, a new gadget, a new device, if you can get away with not doing that. But these can be times where you notice that your gadgets malfunction, your computer won't load, your Zoom won't load, anything of that nature. Tech issues could be quite prevalent for you at this time. The basis of a Mercury retrograde is, of course, to slow down a little bit, because we have become very dependent on tech and things like that, and it may be asking you to reconnect with the present moment. Of course, these things can be irritating, and just double check all the details, all the information. Make sure to check it twice, because Mercury retrograde can leave room for error, particularly in Sagittarius, because as the opposite sign of Gemini, this means that we're so busy focusing on the bigger picture, we might forget to note the important details. Now, Mars leaves Cancer and enters Leo on the 3rd or the 4th, depending on where you are, and will go retrograde on the 6th of December. So we'll be spending this time period in shadow. And with Mars being in Leo for you, Libra, this is very focused on your friendships and groups and communities. That means that these areas can be a place of tension, irritation, anger, and frustration with Mars, but they can also be where you're putting your attention and your focus. You know, this can be where you're taking some sort of action. Maybe you want to be involved in a charity, be involved actively in a cause. Maybe you're wanting to, maybe in your group of friends, you're the one that is making the plans or something of that nature. But it can bring tensions to a head with a group of people or with a team of people. And do note the retrograde dates mean that this may be something that you're reconsidering your approach to a little bit later. It feels because Mars rules your 7th house of relationships that there may be one key person in a group that you are having tension with under this particular transit. But as I say, it can also be time when you're dedicating your efforts and your energy to something philanthropic or humanitarian, with Mars being in the 11th house. Saturn is going direct in Pisces in your 6th house, and this is where you will be more focused from the 15th on committing to your health and seeing some progress, perhaps after delays or a little bit of confusion. If you've been working on your health, or you have been in a job search or wanting to commit to a particular job role, service, etc., or commit to a gym routine or a particular diet, or some lifestyle changes, you may have struggled with this in recent months. Now it will be easier to commit to these things and see progress if you feel there has been none thus far. It's a great transit for taking accountability, and you may be more successful in finding a new job, a new role, if you're willing to put the work in, rather than when it was retrograde and you were reflecting on what that would look like. Pluto enters Aquarius in the 19th, wrapping up its stay in your 4th house. It is now shifting into your 5th house and will be there for 20 odd years. So the area of your chart that will be undergoing significant transformation in the next 20 years, so not necessarily happening on the 19th, but the area that will be experiencing transformation will be to do with your children, will be to do with your love life potentially, and your creativity and what makes you happy. These are all subject to change quite a lot over the next 20 odd years. Please note that where Pluto goes, fear follows, and I want you to know that this does not necessarily have to be the kind of change that you feel that you should be afraid of. It can be a positive thing. Pluto going through the 5th house, for example, can simply be that you have a child leaving the nest and going off to university. It can simply be that perhaps you fall in love with someone new in your life. It can be perhaps that you find different things to be fun. It does not have to be a scary thing, although I do think when Pluto enters Aquarius in the 19th, you may have a little bit of fear about those particular matters. There may be a bit of uncertainty surrounded it, and it is an area that can undergo significant transformation going forward. Venus will be in your 4th house from the 11th of the month, and this can bring a lot of positivity to your home life. So positive social interactions with family, maybe buying new things for the home and decorating it. For some of you, you might be decorating it for the holidays a little earlier than everyone else, because Venus in the 4th house tends to bring a love of decor and a need to make your environment as beautiful and aesthetically pleasing as possible. That's what I have for you, Libra, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Scorpio, welcome to November 2024. I hope you're all doing really well. So Scorpio, new moon in your sign, November 1st. In the first half of November, it is likely that you're going to be making some sort of change or taking some sort of initiative when it comes to who you are. This can be changing your appearance, changing your style. This can be about changing your approach to life. You could be having a bit of a reset in your attitude to life and how you want to live it and how you want to experience it. You may also find yourself a bit in the spotlight at this time. Now, it's in a trine to Saturn in your 5th house, so I feel that whatever changes you're making, they are through the guise of wanting to do or have what makes you truly happy. And not happy in a larger than life kind of way, but the type of happiness that you think will make you happy in the long run, the type of happiness that is sustainable. And you're committed to finding that for yourself or making more of that for yourself. For some of you, it could also be that perhaps with Saturn in the 5th house, you're becoming a parent or you're committing to parenthood, or there's a new beginning for you that is going to still require some sort of commitment to a child, or it could be commitment to your romantic life or your creative pursuits, Scorpio. Now this one is ruled by the Mars-Pluto opposition, and this one's a bit gnarly because Mars and Pluto oppose at the crisis degree of Cancer and Capricorn, which for you, Pluto is in your 3rd house of siblings, of neighbours, your local community, the way that you think. Mars is in your 9th house, which is to do with the bigger picture. It's to do with foreign travel. You may be feeling a sense of now or never with these particular areas. You may feel like you need to change the way that you think. You may feel you need to book a trip, take a travel adventure, study something at university, study something at college. You may be with Mars in the 9th house experiencing a bit of frustration with foreign affairs or with your belief system or with spirituality, or your university lecturers, your college experience, your education. But it could just as easily be with Pluto in the 3rd house, you're frustrated or noticing significant change, or maybe, one of your siblings is going through a hard time, or a neighbor is going through a hard time and you need to be there to assist them. But either way, I think your mindset and your belief system are under some pressure here, and you are perhaps realizing what needs to change in those particular areas. And it can feel like suppressed anger and rage comes up, directed maybe at those people or those subjects around the time of the new moon. The full moon on the 15th is going to be in your 7th house of relationships. And this can bring a surprise or a change when it comes to your partnerships. It is conjunct Uranus, so this can bring shock and surprise. That may be for some of you an engagement, that may be for some of you a wedding, that may be for some of you a breakup or a divorce, a sudden split, or a sudden reunion, or, it can bring many different things when it comes to your relationships, but it seems to be unexpected for a lot of you. Obviously, for some of you, if it's not hitting your chart, it may not be any of those things. It may just be that your partner does something to surprise you, or your partner has some surprising information. It doesn't have to be as extreme. Now, the ruler of this full moon, Venus, is in your 3rd house, which means that perhaps you have some positive news to share, some communication to share. Perhaps there is something positive going on in the life of a sibling. Perhaps there's something positive going on in the life of a neighbor, with Venus in Capricorn. And it may be that you do have some important conversations to have with a partner about the future. Now, Venus in Capricorn, that's there from the 11th of November. And that can be a time that's really positive for your relationship to siblings, to neighbours, to your local community, to your local environment. There may be events going on in your neighbourhood, in your local parish, so to speak. And it may also be that if you're looking for love, you may find it online, on social media, or you may find it locally for you, Scorpio. If that full moon in Taurus is happening for you and you're single and you unexpectedly meet someone, that may be how you meet them. Mercury is going to be in Sagittarius from the 2nd of November to January 2025, retrograde from the 25th of November to the 15th of December. For you, this is about your finances and your money. So double check what you're spending your money on. Be very wary of financial fraud online. I wouldn't suggest shopping on any sites you've not used before. I would be very careful about what information is stored online from a financial perspective. This can be also a time when your bank website is down, your app is down, you lose a card, you have to cancel the card. This is a time where you're more likely to be scammed, so just be careful of that. Forewarned is forearmed. I'm not trying to scare you, but just be more mindful of that. You may also have to pay something off or have some expenses that are overdue that you pay off during the Mercury retrograde period. You may cancel some subscriptions on your phone that you didn't realize you were paying money for. It's a good time to review your financial situation, Scorpio, and make sure that you know where your money is going. Oftentimes with so many apps and websites, you can get signed up to plans that you didn't necessarily expect, and you may figure that out at this time and cancel them. Practicing good financial hygiene, but also being, more diligent about what you're spending your money on and where it's going. Mars enters your 10th house in the 3rd. Will retrograde there in December, so this is going to be in shadow all month. But nevertheless, this brings more action and energy to your career. It could be quite a busy time professionally. It could also be a time where there's some arguments in the workplace, some frustrations with a boss, some anger at a boss or an angry boss. It could be a place, your workplace, your career, your goals, where you're feeling really determined, you're feeling really energized to push forward, but there can also be moments of anger and irritation with Mars. Where Mars goes, conflict tends to follow. So if you're going to fight with anybody this month, Scorpio, I think it's probably to do with people in positions of authority or in your career and your workplace. But as I say, you can also be particularly determined with Mars being there to meet your goals and take initiative on career matters. Prefacing that by saying Mars will retrograde in December, so be mindful you might have to retrace some steps when it comes to those areas. Saturn is going direct in your 5th house on the 15th. You may finally feel more progress when it comes to a creative project that you're working on, or you may feel that you're finally getting somewhere with a child in your life, feeling like things are finally moving forward, you're finally seeing progress with them. It could also be with a creative project that if you've been restructuring it, reviewing it, this may be a time where you finally feel that you can put on the final touches and make it happen, Scorpio. It's easier for you to commit to your creativity with Saturn being in the 5th house. Pluto enters your 4th house on the 19th, and this is going to be a time over the next 20 years where you notice significant change when it comes to your home, family, property matters, your living situation. With Pluto going here, now where Pluto goes, fear follows. So these might be places, areas that you're a bit scared of. You might be worried about someone in your family, worried about someone in the home, a roommate. There could be changes in your home or your property, or you could be moving, but these don't have to happen November 19th. This is a 20 odd year transit, but it does feel when Pluto shifts into this sign that you could be feeling a bit fearful and a bit wary of the winds of change, so to speak. You know, you feel that things are going to change and you're addressing that. You're kind of grappling with that a little bit, Scorpio. Venus in Capricorn from the 11th, as I mentioned before, Venus going through your 3rd house means that if you're looking to date online or in your local community, maybe where you find love this month, but just in general, this can bring a better relationship with your siblings, with your neighbors. It can be more harmonious, it can be more pleasant, particularly after Pluto exiting on the 19th and leaving that sector for good. You may find that it is easier to get on with your siblings, your neighbors, and your local community, Scorpio. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Sagittarius, welcome to November 2024. So Sagittarius, we have a new moon in Scorpio on the 1st of November, so in the first 2 weeks of November, you may be making some significant changes or initiating new beginnings very much behind the scenes where nobody can see. Now, this is in a trine to Saturn in your 4th house, so maybe you have been secretly purchasing a home, secretly redecorating your home, or perhaps you've been working on something privately when it comes to home and family matters, and this new moon is when you're committing to it all the more, or you're looking to transform what it is that you've been doing. For some of you, it may be healing, it may be working on your emotions, your spiritual health, your mental health behind the scenes. And this may be something that you are finding support from your family for, or this is something that maybe you're actually doing from home, so maybe doing on Zoom or doing remotely. It's ruled by a Mars-Pluto opposition, and this one's tough because it's happening at the crisis degree. Mars-Pluto at the crisis degree in opposition in your 2nd and your 8th house means that you may have some suppressed emotions come up from the past. You know, emotional baggage may be coming up at this time. You could have some fears about your financial situation or your joint financial situation with another person. There could be some power struggles when it comes to shared resources. Excuse me, some shared resources, or it could be that perhaps you and your partner are trying to iron out some financial issues together, or you're finding that there's a push and pull and a bit of struggle when it comes to your financial situation that you're trying to take action on, or you feel a sense of urgency to get it wrapped up or get it completed. The full moon in Taurus is happening in your 6th house on November 15th. It's conjunct Uranus, and it's ruled by Venus in your 2nd house, which looks a lot more positive for your financial situation. This full moon in the 6th house can bring unexpected changes when it comes to your job, though. So it could be that your role is changing, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis is changing. This could be quite sudden and unexpected when it comes to your job. You could suddenly get accepted by a job you applied for and learn it starts tomorrow. You could suddenly walk out of a job for some of you, but there can be an unexpected change when it comes to your working situation. It's ruled by Venus in Capricorn in your 2nd house, so I feel it's more likely that it would benefit you financially. Venus is going to be in your 2nd house from the 11th, and this is a good time financially because Venus rules money, and to have it transiting the 2nd house means you're more of a magnet for gifts, money, financial help, etc. So there may be changes when it comes to your work situation. It could also be learning something unexpected about your health or making sudden changes when it comes to your health. Sagittarius, the 6th house, your health, your well-being, your work, your job are places of surprise around the 15th of November, and in the second half. This could be a bit of a shock to you, but being ruled by Venus in your 2nd house, I feel that you may be aligning more with a better financial situation, or you may be aligning more with your morals, your values, and your principles within the context of this change. But a full moon conjunct Uranus can be anyone's guess. It is very unpredictable. It's a bit of a wild card. Someone could unexpectedly leave your job, your place of employment. A colleague, an employee, a co-worker could suddenly exit, or there could be sudden changes within the workplace. Now, Mercury is going retrograde in your sign this month. So from the 2nd of November, Mercury is in your sign and will be there until January. This is an extended stay because on the 25th of November until the 15th of December, Mercury is going to be retrograde. So this means that you might want to think before you speak and think again before you speak, because miscommunication is the name of the game. And in your first house, you may be more prone to misread something, misspeak, misstep, miss the details. You might find that your mind is a bit slower than usual. You get things confused a little bit more. You might find that you're a bit all over the place, possibly because you have commitments at home, or you're working on the house or the home environment is distracting you in some way, shape, or form with this Mercury retrograde. It feels as though you may also be, if you have miscommunication issues, you may have to rely on a partner to help you out, because there's a mutual reception with Jupiter in Gemini in your 7th house of relationships. So maybe if you are having an error with an appointment, you have to get your partner to step in and help you out with it, or something of that nature. Because of this mutual reception, Jupiter's trying to help out, and that's your partner. So I feel like for a lot of you, or it could be a specific person, if you find yourself in a situation where you have made an error of a detail, you might find that there is someone that wants to help you out, which would be positive and, nice in the midst of communication issues. But it does feel as though you're not necessarily going to be the one that has all the details and all the information, and you might miss a few things. It's natural. We all make mistakes. Don't take it too much to heart, Sagittarius. It's also not really a good time to make any changes with your appearance. With Mercury retrograde, cutting hair, buying new makeup, buying new clothes, you might regret them later. Mars enters your, I was gonna say 3rd house. Mars enters your 9th house, Sagittarius. Sorry, my brain is starting to go. I've been talking at these for a long time. Mars enters your 9th house on the 3rd. It's going to be a shadow period. Mars goes retrograde in December in this sector too. So with Mars being in the 9th house, you may be more focused on traveling, on studying and taking trips. You might have a vacation planned. You might decide that you're going to commit your energy to your studies, to learning something new. You might be more active when it comes to your spiritual world, your spiritual community. You might be taking more action there. You might be noticing that opportunities to travel do come up a little bit more with Mars being in the 9th house, but it can bring some irritation, anger, and aggression when it comes to these areas. So you might be frustrated at someone at your university, or at your university in general. You may be frustrated with someone at the airport. You could be frustrated with someone at your church or in your spiritual network. You could be frustrated at these people, or you could be kind of working through your anger in a spiritual way. It's sort of that you maybe are going to an anger release ceremony or something of that nature, but it feels like you're putting a lot of action into your 9th house. So traveling, studying, learning, exploring different religious topics could be somewhere where you're wanting to put your action. And you will later review how you do this with Mars going retrograde in December. Now Saturn goes direct in your 4th house on the 15th. This is where you're probably finally feeling progress when it comes to your home, to property matters, to family matters. Maybe some of you have moved and you're laying foundations and you're starting to see everything come together. Maybe some of you are feeling progress with getting a move or a sell of a house off the ground, the sale of a house off the ground. Maybe some of you are putting your energy and your commitment into your home and into your family, and it's easier to do this now with Saturn going through your 4th house. It's easier now to restructure and to commit yourself to the process of either taking care of a family member, of taking care of your family, of moving, of redecorating, renovating, wherever your focus and your commitment is when it comes to home, family, and property matters, Sagittarius. Pluto enters Aquarius on the 19th, and this is your third house. So the third house is somewhere you're going to experience significant change and transformation over the next 20 years, not necessarily on the 19th itself, but you may notice certain clues and themes come up. The third house is the place of our cars, our vehicles, our phones, our gadgets. It is the place of our siblings, of our neighbours. So you may be noticing that there's a lot of changes coming in that area. I think for a lot of Sagittarians, particularly Sagittarius risings, more so Sagittarius risings, with your fourth house being occupied by Saturn and your third house being occupied by Pluto, I think for a lot of you, you could be moving and your local neighborhood could be changing and the people that you live near could be changing as well. But there can be changes going on in your siblings' life. There can be changes going on with your neighbours, with your local environment, generally speaking. As I mentioned before, Venus is in your second house from the 11th of the month, leaving your sign. Until it's in your sign, that's a beautiful time for looking after your appearance, buying some new clothes, new shoes, getting your hair done. When Venus enters your second house, you're more likely to receive money or gifts. You're a magnet for money, and your financial situation may see some improvement, or you may be feeling a bit more abundant, or you're naturally attracting gifts at this time, Sagittarius. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Capricorn, welcome to November 2024. Hope you're all doing really well. So Capricorn, there is a new moon, November 1st, in your friendship sector and the sector of the future. So you may be setting intentions around this time, initiating a new beginning for the future. Your mind is on the future, what you want, how your aspirations and your wishes are changing. It's in a trine to your ruler Saturn in the third house, so I could see a lot of you manifesting by writing things down in the first half of November. I could see a lot of you setting intentions by using your phone, creating a vision board, journaling, scripting, all that type of good stuff. But I also feel that there's a little bit of significant tension for you when it comes to the future. With Mars and Pluto in opposition on your first house, seventh house axis, Pluto is in your sign, Mars is in your partner's house, and then being at 29 degrees, I feel there could be a bit of tension with you and a partner, especially if it is a romantic partnership, a spouse, a boyfriend, girlfriend, any type of relationship in your life that's really very close. It doesn't have to be romantic, it can be business. There's a bit of tension when it comes to what you want from the future and what you want in your relationships. With Mars being in your seventh house, you may have a partner who is irritating you, angering you, or you may be finding that they are the irritated or angry one. With Pluto being in your sign, you're wanting change. You're in a real place of review right up until the 19th, Capricorn, of what you want from this life, what's important to you, what you want to focus on, and how you want to change your life. And I think a lot of you want to change it quite a lot. And you're trying to make sure that if you're in a relationship, or you plan to be in a relationship, maybe it's not right now, maybe it's a little bit later, you may find that you're wanting to make sure that you're on the same page, or that you want to address any underlying tension that there may be within your relationships, a close relationship. It can be a best friend too, but you want to make sure that everyone's needs are being met, and there can be some power struggles in negotiating that. But with the new moon in the 11th house, you're certainly thinking about the future more. Now Mars moves out of your partnership sector into your 8th house. Mars going through the 8th house it'll be in shadow because Mars goes retrograde on the 6th of December. So you may feel a little bit slower in doing these things, but the energy is still there. Mars in the 8th means that you're more focused on your joint financial relationships. You could find that you're a bit angry or annoyed when it comes to your partner's money, shared financial resources, when it comes to perhaps taxes or financial situations, or you could just be feeling a bit more triggered in general. Mars going through the 8th house is actually a pretty good time to see a therapist or someone who works in the psychological field, because you tend to have the energy to push for answers or work through things with Mars going through the 8th. It's great for a bit of investigation. It's great for a bit of soul searching and soul surgery. Mars going through the 8th is associated with. So you might find this is a time you really want to work through anything that is bothering you, suppressed anger from the past, particularly as Mars is going to go retrograde. You could be working through past anger, frustration, or irritation. and you could be doing this from a psychological perspective. Can be shamanic in other types of ways with the 8th house, but it does feel that you're wanting to work through and address some psychological stuff, Capricorn, essentially with Mars in the 8th. You may also be finding with Mars going through the 8th, I don't mean to laugh, but I just remember my Mars in the 8th experience last year. I'll share you this story. So when Mars was going through my 8th house last year, I was in an 8th house perfection year, so this matters more. So I'm not saying this will necessarily happen to you, but it might because Mars is in shadow and going retrograde. I had a really intense fear of spiders, and for literally a few weeks, spiders kept appearing on my bed and I was traumatized. And eventually I just had to face it because one of them crawled onto my shoulder. And I mean the big ones, like house spiders. I know they can't hurt you and I shouldn't have been scared of them, But once it was on my shoulder, I remember noticing that in the split second before I registered that it was a spider, I thought, oh, how cute. And then I realized what it was and I flung the thing across the room. But I noticed that the fear from the exposure had significantly changed this year. So it can be a time of fear exposure when Mars goes through the 8th house. And this year, I didn't see very many, but the ones that I did see, I was able to just put them in a glass, take them out. Like put them outside, not take them out in an adventure, but like put them outside and it was fine. But I'm making the point that a bit of fear exposure might be happening to you at the time of this Mars in Leo transit, especially with the shadow period of it all. So Saturn is going direct in Pisces on the 15th. Saturn's your ruler, so this is significant for you. You may finally feel like you're making some progress when it comes to your relationship to a sibling, your neighbors, your communication, your mindset in general. Capricorn, you might notice that you're able to think straight, you're able to commit to reading, studying, learning. You might find that things improve with a sibling, there's restructuring involved, things improve with a neighbor, perhaps, if there's been a bit of issue there. And because Saturn is your ruler, you might altogether be feeling a little bit more like yourself. Pluto enters Aquarius on the 19th, and we bid goodbye to Capricorn having Pluto in your first house. So awesome. That's great. You may until that point feel a very intense urge to restructure, to change, and to take inventory of your life and what would be best for you. It is possible with Pluto going into your second house that your financial situation may change quite a lot over the next 20 years. That's very vague because Pluto transits are long, but you might notice around the 19th that you start to feel the winds of change when it comes to money, when it comes to finances. You might now be feeling, say, for example, you haven't worked for a few years. You may suddenly feel you really want to go out and make your own money. Say, for example, you are making a certain kind of money and you've been happy there. You may suddenly feel the need to change that. It just simply brings the energy of transformation wherever it goes. But it can bring a little bit of fear initially as you adjust into this transit. So your financial situation may be taking your attention around the 19th. Good news. Venus is in your sign from the 11th, meaning that you're more attractive, you're more magnetic, people love you, and you're more likely to receive gifts, love offers, and have a better time generally when Venus is in your sign. Great time to get a haircut, new clothes, treat yourself to something nice, Capricorn, and really focus on looking after yourself because this is a time you're more magnetic. The full moon in your 5th house on the 15th is ruled by Venus in Capricorn. So I feel like for a lot of you, there could be an element of surprise when it comes to your children. I won't lie, for some of you, this could absolutely be a surprise pregnancy, with it being in the 5th house and Venus being in your 1st. It could be, it doesn't have to be. This could be a time when you're just spending time with your children or the children in your family, maybe have some sort of surprise, some sort of unexpected announcement. It could be as well that you are feeling really creatively inspired, you get out of a creative rut. It could be that you unexpectedly fall in love with someone at this time. And it could just be around the time of the full moon that you're planning on doing something fun. And I think with Venus being in your 1st house, you're likely to be the belle of the ball around this time as well, Capricorn. That's what I have for you, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Aquarius, welcome to November 2024. Hope you're all doing really well. So Aquarius, there's a few things that are going to be quite impactful for you this month. The number one thing, Pluto is re-entering your sign, and there Pluto will stay for 20 odd years. This is happening on November 19th. Until November 19th, Pluto is hanging out at the crisis degree of your 12th house. So for a lot of you, you could be really focusing on making changes when it comes to your mental health, your spiritual well-being. Maybe you've been working something for a long time behind the scenes and you're wrapping it up. But I think for a lot of you, you're making significant changes, and some of you may be actually initiating significant endings in your life, letting go of certain jobs for some of you, roles for some of you. I think for a lot of you, you're possibly wrapping up a very tricky spiritual cycle or a significant time of healing with you, or working on things behind the scenes, or being more behind the scenes. Pluto in your sign has the energy of taking back your power, wanting to transform your life significantly, wanting to change the trajectory and the course of your life to be more authentic to who you are and who you're becoming. With Pluto in the first house, you're likely going to be experiencing very significant changes in your life and making them yourself. Now, where Pluto goes, fear can follow. So if you feel a little bit nervous, anxious, or afraid around the 19th, know that is Pluto making its way into your sign. And remember that with Pluto in your sign, you have the power here. Okay, so another thing that is quite important for you is that the full moon in Taurus on the 15th is conjunct your ruler Uranus. So there is a sense of shock and surprise, maybe when it comes to home, when it comes to family, or when it comes to property matters. Someone in your family may surprise you, someone in your home, if you have roommates, may surprise you. This could be someone moving out, someone moving in. A family member may have a significant announcement. There can be sudden changes with a living situation. I think for you, with Venus in the 12th house at this point, ruling this full moon, it could be something that really comes out of nowhere. It could be something that is a complete surprise to you, Aquarius. But it does seem that there are going to be changes and surprises when it comes to your home and your living situation around the time of this full moon. I will have a video on that out closer to the time. Another thing worth mentioning is that before Pluto gets into your sign and is at the crisis degree, there will be an opposition from Mars, and this is happening on your 6th house, 12th house axis. In the first week of November or so, you may feel that you are ready to make significant change when it comes to your health and well-being. That could be mental health, that could be physical health. You may be realizing that you need to make some substantial changes, that you can't do things the way you've always done, you can't live the way you've always lived. You have to maybe change the way you exercise, the way you nourish yourself, the way that you take care of yourself, or maybe even the work that you do may be subject to change. With the crisis degree, oftentimes we feel an urgency to make some sort of changes, Aquarius. So these might be areas where you're thinking it's now or never, it's time to make a change. They can also be areas where you're feeling a little bit frustrated, angry, or annoyed as well, with Mars opposite Pluto. Now, Mars moves into your relationship sector on November 3rd and will retrograde there in December, so it's going to be effectively in shadow. But where Mars goes, energy flows. So you might be doing a lot with your partner at this time, but it can also be with Mars, there's a sense of frustration and annoyance at your partner more than usual. There can be lovers' tiffs. This can be not lover, but it can be with someone in your life that you're very close to. But it seems as though relationships could be a source of tension, and be mindful of any conflict that does come up with a significant other or a significant person in your life, because you may see this differently a month from now. But it does tend to bring a lot of action and focus onto your relationship, with the potential for some conflict or some disagreements. Saturn is going direct in your 2nd house in the 15th. If you've had trouble with your financial commitments, things will start to get a lot easier. You'll start to see financial commitments paying off, frugality paying off, being more financially responsible paying off. You might see progress after reviewing and restructuring your financial situation. It may be easier for you to commit to it. Mercury is going to be in Sagittarius, your 11th house from the 2nd, right up until January 2025. I must warn you, you may have some miscommunications with friendships, particularly from the 25th of November until the 15th of December. Miscommunication may come up in your friendships, in teams, in groups. Doesn't have to be major, but it could be a pretty bad time to loan anybody money because there's a square to Saturn in your second house. It could be that you maybe have disagreements with friends over values or over work, but it feels there can be miscommunication there as well. So just be mindful that, allow a bit of grace that there may be miscommunication when it comes to maybe social events, friendships, and these may be things that can help you become closer to a person if you have a disagreement and you talk it out after. You might learn more about each other. But Mercury in the 11th house can make things that little bit more social, more opportunities to socialize, to go out, to go to events. Your calendar can be booked up at this time, Aquarius. Venus is going to be in your 12th house from the 11th, which is a lovely time to nest, to stay home, and to really focus on taking care of your sleep. Venus going through the 12th house can be a lovely time to invest in some new sheets, new bedding, a lavender scented candle, pillow spray, just making sure that you're getting the highest quality sleep that you can, Aquarius, with Venus going through the 12th. It can be an area as well where your dreams have more significant, you may have more pleasant dreams while Venus is going through your 12th house as well. That is what I have for you, Aquarius, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Pisces, welcome to November 2024 for your sign. Hope you're all doing really well. Pisces, there's a new moon November 1st. So in the first 2 weeks of November, the first half of November, you may be thinking about planning a trip, taking a vacation, taking some time out to travel. You may also be thinking of committing to further study, to beginning a new course of study, whether that is a university degree, a master's, a PhD, something of that nature you could be committing to with Saturn trining this new moon in your first house. So you're ready to put in the work to this, or you're ready to commit to doing this. So whether that is you're planning an adventure or a course of study, you may feel like you can commit to this. Particularly because the 15th of the month, Saturn is going to go direct in your sign. And when Saturn goes direct in your sign, it essentially means that you're going to start to see progress with your personal projects. That was a mouthful. You're going to see progress with your personal projects. Saturn, having been in retrograde, may have felt like nothing was moving, no matter how hard you were trying in the gym, with what you eat, with how you take care of yourself. You may have noticed that it was not working, you did not feel movement, you did not feel things were going to plan. Now that Saturn goes direct, you're going to see the progress for the areas you've taken self-accountability and restructuring. And you're going to feel your life in general is moving forward a little bit more with Saturn being in your sign and being direct. When Saturn goes direct after a period of retrograde, you can see the rewards for your hard work and your accountability, even if you were not feeling them thus far. There's a full moon on the day that Saturn goes direct, and the full moon is in your third house, conjunct Uranus. So you may have the surprise in store in your local neighborhood. Your neighbor could surprise you, your sibling could surprise you, a cousin could surprise you. There could be an event going on in your neighborhood that is quite exciting, for better or for worse. There could be some unexpected news coming your way. With Uranus conjunct the full moon in the third, you may have some unexpected news from a friend, with Venus being the ruler of this full moon in your 11th house. You could have some good news from a friend. They could tell you something shocking or unexpected. And it could also be that you maybe have a bit of an epiphany when it comes to your goals for the future. You suddenly have a realization. You may also see something online that surprises you at this time. But I feel like for a lot of you, you could be having some surprising news with this full moon being in your third house. Can also be something surprising happening with a car or a vehicle. So be extra mindful of taking care on the road around the full moon as well. That's not to scare you. That's just to give you some generally good advice. Take care on the road in general. There's Mercury in Sagittarius. Mercury is there from the 2nd of November until January of 2025, so an extended stay because of a retrograde period from the 25th of November to 15th of December. So with Mars entering your 6th house in the 3rd, Mercury entering your 10th house in the 2nd, both are going to go retrograde. The next 2 months have a lot of possibility for work-related tasks. It could be a very busy time professionally. It could be a time where you're maybe rethinking your professional role, your professional status. It could be a time when you're rethinking how you work, the energy you're putting into work, and also rethinking your health when it comes to your work, rethinking your wellness, and really making your health a priority with Mars going through your 6th house from the 3rd as well. The Mercury retrograde period from the 25th to the 15th, that's a time where past work mistakes can come back to haunt you. They can come back for review. There can be miscommunications at work. You can send an email to the wrong person. You can you can accidentally hit reply all. It's something you shouldn't. So just be doubly mindful when you send an email. I would read it about at least 2 times over to make sure that you know who you're sending it to and what you're sending. From a career perspective, you might mix up career appointments, work, interviews, that sort of thing. But essentially, a lot of your energy and your thought will be going towards your work and your goals, Pisces. But up until the 11th, Venus in your 10th house can make you more professionally visible in a very positive way. So allow yourself to be seen when it comes to your work, because it can be very positive for you to put yourself out there, especially if you're looking for a new job. Although I will say, from late November into early December, you might not be 100% sure what you want to do. You may be more in a period of review. Now, the new moon in Scorpio on the 1st that I mentioned, it's ruled by the Mars-Pluto opposition. And at that point, Mars and Pluto will be in an opposition in your 5th house, 11th house. You could get very cheesed off with a friend. You could get very cheesed off with you could be, okay, so Pluto's in your 11th house, the crisis degree. You could be very fearful or worried about the future. You could be worried or fearful about a friend. There could be a power struggle with friends. You might find if you have a child that they're maybe going through a bit of a tough time with Mars being there. They could be feeling quite angry. They could be acting out, quite irritable. You could also find that if you get into an opposition with somebody, it's quite a passionate opposition where you feel there's a lot of feelings involved. And it could just simply be that you're maybe reconsidering what the future looks like for yourself and where you're not happy or you are happy. But I think it's looking at where you're not happy and what changes that you can make when it comes to the future, Pisces. I do think you'll feel a lot better when Saturn goes direct in your sign on the 15th too. Pluto enters your 12th house on the 19th, so this is a long-term transit. But around the 19th, you might start to find yourself working through some fears, having some nightmares, having some bad dreams. You may be realizing around this time what healing you need to do. Pluto going through the 12th house can be a time where you work through suppressed emotions or past traumas that you have not dealt with yet. Pluto likes to do a good investigation, and it tends to do so through your sleep. So pay attention to your dreams around this time. They may reveal some scenarios to you that you will understand through their images, the characters that show up, what you need to heal and what you need to work on. Venus is in your 11th house from the 11th, and this will be a very positive time for socializing, a very positive time for events, being with friends, spending time with friends, getting on with friends, making plans for the future. Very positive time socially, Pisces. That is what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon.